Hello, everyone. We're just letting everybody get in and then we'll get started. We're here today for the webinar, Enhancing Your Leadership Impact, the Power of Networking for Middle Leaders with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken. We'll get started in just a minute.
Hello. Delighted to be here with you today. Yeah, we'll give a few more minutes, I think, for participants to come in.
Hello, people just joining. We are here today for the webinar, Enhancing Your Leadership Impact, the Power of Networking for Middle Leaders, and we'll get started in just a moment. Please feel free to pop your name and your organisation into the chat and say hello, and then we know where everybody's from.
And we're starting the networking straight away.
Straight away. Hello, everyone. We're here today for Enhancing Your Leadership Impact, the Power of Networking for Middle Leaders with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken. And I'll just do a little brief intro for Barbara. She's an education training consultant with over 30 years experience in the training, education and skills sector, working in colleges, adult education, independent training providers and universities. Barbara has held many senior leadership positions covering a wide range of provision and delivery types. Barbara is passionate about delivering educators, managers, senior leaders, and other professionals so they can thrive in their roles and progress in their careers. And we're very happy to have Barbara here today. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really delighted to be here with you today. And I'm going to start with just a few things on the slides, just how we're going to get organized, how we're going to really have today as a session that's going to really help you, I hope, enhance the skills you already have in terms of networking and see how you can really then use them in your strategic and operational activities. So really delighted to be here. And I really want to say that actually, in terms of the sector, I'm not sure I'd still be here after 30 years if it wasn't actually for my big network of people around me that I've got and cultivated over the years. So hopefully we can work together in the next hour and you can really get the best out of you. It's an hour for you. It's an hour where you can reflect on your own leadership impact, the power of networking, what you're doing already, and also how you can enhance it further. So I'm going to start obviously with the side that is a bit the context, the strategic importance of networking. We'll then move on to networking competencies, see where you are, what else could you be improving, and then also looking at how we can then implement some of those strategies and give you some tips and tools that you should be able to go back to and use straight away with your teams as well. So recognizing that importance in terms of why it is absolutely critical in the world that we live in, that fluxes, changes all of the time, to really create that network around us. So I'm going to ask you to start with to grade from a 1 to 10 how you feel currently, where you are and how much you've networked in 2025 so far on a 1 to 10, both personally and professionally. Have a piece of paper on the side. I think it'll come in handy, or an ebook, or however, if you want to just reflect and think about that number for a minute. Where are you? What have you done so far? And how would you actually, on a scale of 1 to 10, grade yourself? As you do that, I also would like you to think for a minute about actually what else did you want to have achieved that maybe you haven't yet achieved. And again, spend a minute just reflecting personally and professionally. What else would you have liked to achieve? And I really hope that through the session today, I'm going to help you to achieve some of those by the end of the session and give you some ideas so you can, as I said, learn, enhance throughout the the session and moving forward. So 1 to 10, personally, professionally, and jot down maybe a few ideas of what you wanted to achieve but not yet done. It is just so important as a middle leader to network. If you're familiar with the ETF Middle Leaders Professional Standards, you will know that there are a few points that actually really focus on that networking in many guises. You will have the side that obviously tells you about building that collaborative relationships with internal and external stakeholders, but also maintaining your knowledge of the broader spectrum of our context, depending on where you sit. Feeling well informed, knowing what's happening in terms of research. All of those are really, really important in your role as a middle leader. And I want you to really think that actually networking and all of the things that you do is not just a nice add-on. This is actually something that is absolutely part of your role, absolutely helping you and helping your colleagues who are operational to really grow and thrive, which obviously will help your learners, but also you are the conduit to the strategic side in the college or in your ITPs or organization, and really working with the SLT and the exec teams is also absolutely critical. So it's not a nice to have, and if you're doing it already, it's nice for you to also recognize that actually this is absolutely part of your role as a middle leader. So if you're not doing it enough, let's start building on this further. So I like that social capital idea. Social capital, it brings that economy and that sociology together, showcasing that actually, if we want communities to thrive and individuals to thrive, bringing them together, creating those networks, those engagement and creating that trust will absolutely make a difference, and in turn enrich those communities, those groups, those individuals, and help them to progress. So it's sort of bring those two together, the social side, the sociology and the economics. And it really helps you to grow your knowledge, your skills, allows you to find opportunities, allows you to maybe find resources that you wouldn't find on your own, increase and tighten some of those relationships that you have that will support you. It's such a tricky changing sector that actually that mutual support will really help you so often. I definitely know that many times I've been lucky to be able to get that support from team members, colleagues, but also externally to really understand what was happening. And it's helped me in progressing in my career over the years. So seeing it really as a social capital as well for you, for your teams, and helping them to progress is really important. So that's just giving us a little bit of the context and why we want to network. The purpose of it, obviously, as we are professionals in the FE and skills sector, is that the relationships when you network has got to be positive for both sides. Those connections are not one-sided, they really are mutually advantageous and also value for everyone involved. You will be seen as a professional middle leader in your industry, in your specialism. It will increase your presence. It will increase your confidence in how you feel absolutely on top of your game in terms of your knowledge, in terms of understanding the sector, in terms of knowing who to go to if you need further information. So it is absolutely critical to do that networking, and it's really significant. We talk a lot in the sector about the ecosystem, not an ego system, and I think it's really important to really thinking about the two sides to it. So I wanted to just remind you of that through this slide. I've put here on a slide the Institute for Government overview and picture of just the public sector. I think in FEM skills, whether you're in an ITP, in adult education, in university colleges, you will have to network in your role. You probably do so much of that already. You'll be liaising with employers, you'll be liaising with auditors, you'll be liaising with funders, policymakers, with safeguarding aspects. You'll be liaising with so much of it. And as middle leaders, you probably already do a lot of that. So you're already shaping those skills and using them. And I think what I wanted to really highlight today is actually how can we further do that and use all of that to do that horizon scanning, because this is just so complex. There is just so much out there that we need to take into account. It's just impossible for one person to do that. So I think that importance of doing that horizon scanning as a team. You know, you're a middle leader. You'll have meetings maybe with different teams. It depends on the size of your organization. You might be working with obviously with your senior leaders as you shape strategies. You might be liaising with governors in understanding that horizon for you, what's coming down the track, what do we need to take into consideration as we start to recognize potentially some opportunities or some risk. I really like that idea of the PESEL analysis, you know, where you look at all of the different factors that you need to take into account in terms of strategic thinking as a middle leader. You know, what are the political side that you need to think of, or policies that you want to influence? What size, the social side of your work, the technology side of your work, the legal side, the ethical side, the inclusive side, and the environment as well. So there's a lot to take into account, and it's just as I've just said, impossible to think that we can know all of that. So the power of the network here is going to help you really, and if you look at the middle there, gather some of that intelligence, organize it, and then start to share it with the with the teams, with the people, the individuals that you need to share them with. You might also then start to think about insights. You know, what does it mean for you? How are you going to deepen that understanding where you actually need to understand it better so you can shape, you know, a policy, a process better. And then also then decide how you're going to take action. Are you going to start researching? Who do you need to research with? Who are you going to be starting to plan with? How you're going to start delivering. Obviously, that's where you want to get to, take action and start delivering. And again, I like that idea of doing the co-delivering, the co-thinking, the collaboration throughout all of those activities. So it's an activity that you can take back to your organization to make sure that actually you have got all of that information in place. And where you've got gaps, actually, that is also going to start telling you, actually, I've got gaps potentially in my network because I'm not sure where I could obtain that information or who could help me gather some of that information. I'm not sure where I can go. So I think by doing that, sometimes individually, but also in your teams, it's going to help you start shaping for your organization and for your own context. Obviously, it can be quite different, but working with your senior leaders, but also working with your teams who are on the ground and really understand the day-to-day activities in some of those sectors. You know, if you work in apprenticeships or in digital skills, people who are actually delivering might be part of some networks or that you're not aware of. So gathering all of that is going to be super critical to think about what's coming next and how you can really then shape that to start those conversations that you need to have. I hope that gives you some and I'm just always aware of the time and that you might want to delve into it further with the teams. I'm going to just remind you that you will have the slides afterwards as well, so it'd be easy to sort of use some of those in your internally. And actually networking starts internally as well, so don't forget that internal network. So that gives us a real context in terms of why it's so valuable for individuals to really do that networking, to feel that it's going to be beneficial for all parties, increase our knowledge, but also, as we've just seen, actually lean into what we don't know and go to people who will help us understand and know better. I like to be knowledgeable, but sometimes it's easier to go towards people when you actually don't know too much about it, because you can really go into the relationship with that curiosity and that completely blank page that you want to fill with the information they're going to give you. So this second part, we're going to continue to really think about the diversity of the network that we want to have. We've just seen, as you start to scan what's out there and where your gaps are, it's going to be really important that you start building that diversity, and not just operationally or strategically, but also for yourself, so that you can really become really thrive and grow as a person, but also then in your leadership impact. So let's maybe, if you're okay with scanning the Menti code that is now on the screen, just let's give ourselves a few minutes to look at that FE and skills ecosystem, and for you to just add on the Menti, there's two sections. What do you gain from networking? And actually, what could you be missing if you don't network? So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to get online. So the code is 64604077. If you want to go directly online, just put Menti, I think, in Google somewhere, and put the code in. Or if you've got your phone available, it'd be great if you can add to that. And again, I've put that little picture there around all of the different layers of networking that you can tap into to start to increase your knowledge, your skills, as we've said, but also your influence as a middle leader. Can I check, Jill, that people are actually accessing Menti? Is there a way you can confirm they are? Oh, sorry, you are on mute, Jill.
I normally remember that one. So yes, the results are coming through. So if I just give you a couple of answers
That'd
from
be
this
great.
one.
Thank
So
you.
what do you gain from networking? So we've got insights into other good practice, knowledge, different way of thinking, sharing expertise, insight into impact of doing an activity, experience from others, sector knowledge. There's loads coming through. So
And it sort of echoes some of the things that we've said earlier. I like that word expertise. Really increasing
yeah,
your expertise, increasing your impact is absolutely critical. And that sharing that comes back, because networking really is about sharing. So that's great. Have you got answers coming through for the second question?
Yep, they're slowly coming through. So what could you be missing if you don't? So you've got learning from others, changes in policy, opportunities to be more efficient, knowledge, expertise, knowledge working smarter, sharing good practicing, missing opportunities. Somebody's put a good point, can feel a bit lonely if you don't have a network, especially if you're the only manager of your type in the organization. You need to research and gain the expertise yourself, which could take a lot longer. So quite a few comment. We'll share the results afterwards because they're good to read back through over.
Absolutely. So definitely can be missing. And I so agree with that idea that if it does feel lonely sometimes. I remember when I was program area manager for languages within my college, You know, there was a very small team. I had modern foreign languages, ESOL and BSL, you know, and I was leading on all of that. And actually, it was so different from what the rest of the college was doing that it felt at times I was facing challenges that no one really understood. So actually,
Yeah.
the networking through you know, the learning networks and the modern languages and ESOL networks really created that community for me where I could go and really talk problems through. And yeah, best thing I definitely did, because it's quite tricky. And you can obviously talk with colleagues around some of those aspects, but understanding the, you know, the nitty gritty of the everyday operational activities. And like someone said here, you know, understanding the scanning that horizon and really seeing what's
Yeah.
happening out there to actually accelerate some of your knowledge. You know, I don't have to spend 2 days trying to find the information. There's probably someone in my network who's already found it.
Yeah.
And also sharing what I'm finding. So it is a two-way thing. So it will really help you. The more you share, the more you'll get things back as well. It really is a two-way activity. Thank you, Jill. That's great. I hope that you know, we'll be able to share some of those afterwards, because some great ideas there. Uh, so absolutely clear that you understand why it's so important to network. So one of the things that I encourage you know, leaders that I work with is to become more intentional about our approach to networking. And again, in a team meeting, I would sort of say, you know, have you got time to really come together and really intentionally create this little table to actually have a more coordinated approach to networking? You know, and I'm thinking, you know, if you're in apprenticeships, are you working nationally with the Association of Apprentices, for instance? If you um, are working in the digital sphere, you could actually work internationally, because you can work with World Skills, for instance, or you can, if you're in doing A levels, you could tap into the Turing scheme, you know, internationally. Adult education, uh, locally, regionally, work with your combined authorities. So actually really think broadly about what's around you, what you need to tap into to have the latest knowledge about things. But also then allocate some of these to people in the team, if you've got that privilege of, you know, having a team who can also support you with some of that. And then also think about how you're going to bring all of that information back, because as we've seen before in that little grid I was showing you, you know, go gather the insights and the intelligence, but then you want to use it to really shape your policies, your processes, your strategy. So it's really important as you do that, that you really consider how you're going to centralizing, how you're going to use it, are you going to feed back? Is it in a meeting? Have you got a Teams section where you can add things that you've seen or shared? So all of that is really, really important. And there is a section here, that first column, which is around actually organizational, the organizational side, because I think sometimes we go externally for a lot, but it's really important to also look internationally in your own organization, what you have that maybe you haven't tapped into. You know, you've probably got some fantastic IT teams that would help you with some of the tech that you might want to use. Are you inviting them to your meetings to come and share some of that info? Internally, you could tap into your marketing team maybe a little bit more, see what they've gleaned out there and how they like to present things, so you can really support that, the business development side or the sales side. So I think it's a grid that really is going to help you to shape how you go about being intentional about it, where you need to go, but also who is going to then bring that info and how, what you're going to do with it. So I think that's an activity that we found really, really useful in team meetings, in CPD sessions, and also at the right time in the cycle. We are now in this lovely overlap, aren't we, where we're in March, we're trying to finish 24, 25, and at the same time trying to already shape 25, 26. So there's a lot of strategy, and now is exactly the right time where you want to really think, what do I need to put in place so that I feel absolutely ready for next year? And I've position myself within all of those networks so that when we start the new year, I've got all of that information ready for me. So I think really important to do that. Yeah, I just wonder, I don't know if you want to put it in the chats maybe, but to put in the chats maybe if you've done something like that already, and how it's helped you, if you want to spend just a few minutes just adding to it, or actually if it's given you ideas on how you could utilize the grid or the activity, you could also share that in the chats potentially. So I'll give you a minute or two to do that. And Jill, I think we can share the download of the chats as well, can't we? Perfect.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. It feels like you're a newbie at this, you know. Oh, cute.
It's just a bit.
Not
It's
your
always
first
something.
rodeo.
Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't be surprised. I've been doing it for ages, but yeah, there's always something that catches me out.
Absolutely. So as you're putting that and you're adding to the chats, I can see the numbers in the chats growing. So keep adding to the chats. Absolutely fantastic to share some of that. I wonder, Jill, if you can keep an eye on it and maybe just share one of the two things that are coming up in the chats around that, whether they, you know, the leaders we're talking to
Yeah. So
find it a good idea.
a participant has popped in that they manage a team of ESOL tutors and that this would be good to share with the team to see collectively who they network with as a team. So that's good.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to share it with the teams because one, we are also working on, you know, their progression in this FE sector. We want them to be absolutely aware of what's out there. And also to, as I said earlier, to really gather their ideas. So it really is a two-way thing, and it's ever so useful to get people to start connecting the dots. You know, they can see this massive picture or this massive puzzle, and either the puzzle and the picture will become clearer as you do that. So thank you for sharing that.
And somebody else has said that they're part of the safeguarding team and they think it lends itself with they're all just piling in now, so that's good. Lends itself
Fantastic.
really well to thinking about networking. So and then somebody else, they've got a similar document that was created for Ofsted, but adding a column with these options will be really helpful as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, and especially you're right, teams like safeguarding that are teams that actually work across the organization. You know, it's really important to know maybe within your own organization how you make sure you actually hear everyone's voice across your college, your organization, but also so important to stay absolutely current with what's happening out there. So you know, making sure you're not missing out by having that visibility is really useful. And you can put links to, you know, charities that it's all easy then to tap into as and when you need them. So in terms of network opportunities, we've talked just now about internal, external, and personal opportunities that you're going to find when you start going out there. And I'm just going to go through 5 key principles that always resonate with me and that I feel are a good guide as to how you go about really networking. So the first one is about giving before receiving, which I think you'll probably all understand. If we want it to be a mutual advantageous collaboration, for it to be valuable for everyone involved, it has to be a two-way sort of activity. And as I go into conversations, I really try to build that relationship, that goodwill. I'm sharing some of the insights and expertise that I have. I don't want any returns. I'm doing it genuinely because I enjoy the connections. What I often do, and I find myself doing more and more because I'm clearer and clearer about, you know, the sector, the different aspects. And I'm very lucky. I've worked in ITPs, in colleges, in adult education, in unis. I can see some of those dots, and I find it so powerful as well to make introductions. I'm thinking, oh, I've met you, and you would gain so much from meeting this other person, because the two of you working together could collaborate on something, or you could do a piece of research somewhere. So I am constantly, as I'm joining the dots, also making introduction in person or virtual introductions, and that is the start of you know, the networking and that relationship, because they will come to me when they see opportunities for me as well. And so it really becomes that two-way aspect. I support, I think now, obviously, as a consultant in FE and skills, I'm even more lucky because I go out and around and I meet a lot of people. So I think sharing that best practice and feeling that I am that connector is a really nice feel, but it will happen within your specialisms. Quantity over quality. I think it's important to remember as you start networking. Don't just go and you know, click on everyone on LinkedIn and give your, I mean, collecting business cards. They're not really business cards anymore. E-business card, QR codes. I don't know what it is nowadays, but it's not necessarily about the numbers. It's really thinking, as you've done your grids and really thought of, where have I got gaps? Where is it that I need to do more work to really become better at it? Just go after that. So really take that time to then build that relationship with them, understanding, you know, their interests, their challenges, and so share yours, obviously. And then also following up after meetings. You go to a conference, you meet someone, send a message straight away on LinkedIn, or share your you know, an email, etc., but then just follow up as well afterwards, so that you've cemented the connection more firmly after the meeting. Another one then obviously is that consistent engagement. You know, you've got to be regular about regular engagement will help you strengthen it. So obviously, if you're out and about like I am, you start meeting the same people in some of the conferences, in some of the networks. You're engaging maybe on LinkedIn, and people see you connecting, so people start to recognize you, etc. But I also recommend putting in diaries, for instance, a 6 weekly half an hour call with some of your key people, just to really touch base, see what's happening out there. I have quite a few in my diaries where, you know, on a Friday, 8:30 before the day starts, nearly every week, I've got talking to someone different. So on a 6 week basis, that gives you loads of connections. You feel like you're up to date, and you keep that relationship going, and pick up along the way some great insights, but also share what you've seen, and finding that really useful. You can increase that by obviously being part of some of those professional associations that are out there, by actually looking at some research communities. Also, as I said earlier, you know, you could go to maybe like the chambers. They've got business meetings. It could be with the combined authorities. Working in the Manchester area, I know the Greater Manchester Learning Provider Network, for instance, does monthly updates, and a lot of the groups will actually have some of those. So actually being part of that helps with that regularity of interactions, and really sort of cements those relationships. So really important to think about how you're going to do that as well. Really think about that active listening as you are learning about another person's or another team's and their sphere and their context. It's really important to try and memorize some of that in some ways, or jot it down in your little book. If like me, your brain's not great, I'd go to meetings and I quickly jot down sometimes after my meeting just a few names, a few things were discussed, because then it's really easy then for reference when you have future interactions, and you can carry on with those powerful conversations with them. So worth sort of, you know, making a real mental note, or jotting it down. And the last one, which is what we talked about earlier, I think it's really think about the diversity of your connections. Where you're going to find real values are those connections that you wouldn't usually have. So what do you need to do to really bring those different perspectives that you want to have? Where do you need to go? What groups do you need to be part of? So it's going to enhance your leadership and your impact, and bring those fresh perspectives that you want. Otherwise, you will be missing out, and your strategic thinking or how you work with your team, you might really have gaps there. So actually really think about, again, it could be that PESTLE activity I gave at the beginning, or that other grid with the different types of links. Where do you have those gaps? Where do you need to go and start tapping into it? So that takes us to the last part now of the webinar. Hopefully it's been useful up to now. If you want to keep adding to the chats, your thoughts so far, please do so. But we'll have another Menti in a minute where you'll be able to add to, again, with some of your reflections. So the third part is really, well, how do I go about it? How do I start applying these really in real world scenarios? What is it that I need to do? And as I said at the beginning, you are middle leaders, so you already do this all of the time. You connect with empathy with all of your teams, with your colleagues. You also are very professional and report back probably to SLT, maybe to governors. So you're probably doing a lot of that already. So let's look into how you could, enhance that further, but also maybe which aspect in particular you'd want to work on, and also think about who could help you with those. As you start thinking about some of those competencies and some aspects that you want to develop, think about who is already potentially in your network, who is really showcasing some of those competencies and skills. And you might want to go and see them and say, oh, I'm trying to expand my network. One of the things I really need is this. I can see that you're doing it so well. Is there anything I can learn from you? So I think it's not being afraid to highlight that we are, as I always say, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm constantly learning. I love it when I can go to other people and ask them for their advice and expertise and get their support. So I think it's really important to do that. On the screen, you'll see a few of those skills that are required. And as I said, I know you'll be doing that. You'll have empathy, you'll have curiosity, you'll be listening actively to your teams. You obviously have probably developed your communication at different levels. How do you interact with your different stakeholders? And again, that's in the professional standards, moving from that really operational, working with the learners directly one day, and then the next day having to present a full-on paper to board, for instance. Keep working on that relationship management. How do you do that? What works for you in other areas of your life, and what is it that you could take forward to really help you with that? And then also capitalize on that networking to help you think more strategically by doing that horizon scanning. I think it'll open some doors, and go. And if the doors are not open, keep knocking on doors. Go open doors to find out more. I think really important. So those are some of the key skills that I could think of. If you can think of other ones that you think you'd need to really be to increase that networking, please don't hesitate to put that in the chats as well. Jill, I'm going to stop here just for 1 minute. Anything else that's come up in the chats that is worth sharing with the group?
There's nothing in the chat, but there's a couple of points on networking that's probably around this topic. So one participant was saying that they're head of marketing at college and they've built relationships with other marketeers at the other colleges and offered advice and support, but when they reach out they don't get much back. How would you encourage, do you have any advice on making sure the relationships aren't one-sided?
Absolutely. And I think that's really important, isn't it? And we can talk about here about that professionally and their relationship management. You give so much. I think it's making sure that as you give, you probably put some actions as to, when are we going to meet, put things in diaries already. Uh, let's share, I don't know, create a space on SharePoint where we're all going to put things on to increase that relationship. Organize another face-to-face where you can actually get that information whilst you're in the meeting, rather than people, depends on the pressures obviously that people have. So sometimes it's very difficult, but maybe that's why the meetings and the conversations are where you're going to gather some of that information and evidence. So I would probably go down that route, not knowing the context. Obviously it's a bit difficult, but I think trying to understand their context, why they're not giving anything back, will help you shape, the solution. Is it because they've not got time to write a paper or send something, or is it because they've got, they're in a restructure, in a really tight, difficult position and can't actually share things at that time? So yeah, I think definitely continue, as I say, and continue sharing, because they will, give something back. And if you never get anything back and you feel like it's not right, well, keep them in your network and you find another group where you feel like you'll be a more mutual agreement. I would say as well, you can only try for so long in some ways. If some of the networks are not valuable, you can find other groups as well.
Thanks, Barbara. That's great. One other one. Have you got any tips for networking when someone who is neurodivergent or anxious, and how you would overcome the social barriers to this?
Yeah. Well, in a minute, I'm going to show you a slide which is about small talk, and
Oh,
so I will come
perfect.
to that question in a minute, actually, and talk about that. So perfect question, absolutely perfect question. I just want to show you this one, but because I'm just always aware of the time, and I can give so many examples as well, which hopefully are useful. But one of the top tips as well is your personal brand. It's really working on your personal brand, and that if you are neurodivergent, you can work on that, and that can be how you present in terms of what are you known for. Is it clear? Is your LinkedIn page really clear? What do we do nowadays? We meet someone, the first thing I do is go on LinkedIn, check who they are, where they're from, a little bit about their background. Is their picture one of them now, or is it from 10 years ago and doesn't look anything like them? So, that personal brand is important. What are you known for? How you engage, how you connect, is really critical as well. So, and another one, which again probably will help with that, the question you've just asked that there, colleague, is also, I call it planned serendipity. So sometimes I find it really, really hard, although I'm a very extroverted person and I love people, and not many meetings phase me. There are still some that do. So planned serendipity, by that I mean that I will plan to arrive really early in the meetings. So I'm there first, and I can just pick the people as they come in and just have a little conversation. It's usually quieter. You can have some good conversations before the whole conference starts, for instance, or meeting. So being early at meetings is where some of those conversations happen. Very difficult when you're online. I know some of you may be working online a lot, because we now go into meetings literally, just 2 minutes before it starts, and we finish afterwards. But it'd be good to sort of say also, post conference or post meeting, I would encourage you to sort of say, we'll have the meeting that time till that time, and then we'll the end is just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes just for networking. Or at the start, the first 5 minutes of your online meeting could be about just have a little chit chat, create that connection with people. And the same, I like to stay when a conference is finished, or when a meeting is finished, and continue some of the conversations a little further. So I think that's one way of doing planned serendipity. Planned serendipity for me in a college was also that I would always do lunch away from my desk. So I was planning to be away from my desk, and I would go and park myself somewhere I knew there'd be people, or park myself with someone else in another office and have lunch somewhere away. So actually use your lunch time. And I know a lot of us, we just eat at our desk, but actually that's why planning it maybe once a week. It doesn't have, it's little steps. Once a week, decide that you're going to take lunch away from your desk, because that's going to be your time to have either that one-to-one time with someone in another area, or to actually be in there, in the college, and have a feel for what's happening. So I think that's one that's important. As I said, those regular check-ins, put those in place. Find yourself a mentor who can maybe help you increase some of those skills. And if you are neurodivergent, that might be useful as well. So you can maybe rehearse some of those scenarios in advance, so you feel like you feel more prepared going into some of those situations. Obviously, there's lots of different situations and contexts, and I can't give specific examples, but I think that's sometimes one way to do it. Sometimes it's also when you join professional associations or groups, what you'll find is that you find ways of working, and you go into listening mode for the first few, so you can see and really get a feel for how people interact, what is expected in the group, and allow you to sort of prepare, and then only feel ready to really contribute 100% when you've got that feel for it. So don't put that pressure on yourself, in the sense that you've got to go into somewhere and you're going to get loads out of some of those conferences and meetings. It could be that you're at a stage where you're at the beginning of your journey, so give yourself that grace of I'm there as a bit of an observer, because I want to learn how it's done, so I feel more confident to do it again in the future. And share what's worked for you. So share what you've, come back to your colleagues and say, I've networked, it's done this for you, for me, and this is how I'm going to share things with you. So share how positive the networking has been, I think is a good one. As I said, I put this little slide because actually I am a very extroverted person, but there were, when I started going into certain meetings, or when I probably was moving, and some of you might be at that stage where you're moving from middle leadership to senior leadership, or you're given the opportunity to go into different groups, you might feel a bit intimidated or a bit nervous. And so what I had a few ready-made sort of questions that I knew I could just ask anyone in any situation, and it would start the conversation, and I wouldn't be like tongue-tied, what am I going to tell them about? So maybe, and I've put some on there, these are some that I was thinking of, you'll have your own. So what I would say is, like, really to think about what are 2 or 3 questions that I could ask in all those situations. If you're in a conference, someone's asked a good question, you see them afterwards, I noticed you've asked a really good question during the presentation. I'd love to hear more about your work in that area. Or it could be just simply, what brings you here today? What are the challenges you're facing at the moment in your there's always something there when you ask about someone's challenges, or what are you working on at the moment? Or you could also say, oh, I'm new to this network, I'm new to this area, I'd love to learn more about this. I wondered if you'd share something. So I think just having 2 or 3 that you've got ready in your back pocket to sort of use will also be quite reassuring, and you pick the one that fit you. So it might be that there are questions that you've tried and tested in your teams that always seem to work. It could be that you use them in your personal life, when you go into some of those meetings or with other people. And so use what feels right for you. The more confident you feel about it, I think the easier it'll be to then go towards others. So those were just a few ideas there. So obviously, sharing and being intentional about networking, I wanted to keep thinking about what would happen if I was that little bit more intentional about my networking. What impact would it have for me? Would it be that it would help you with growing your confidence, being seen as a middle leader, being seen as a middle leader who wants to progress, being seen as a specialist in my area. So it could have lots of different uh, benefits for you. It would obviously, and some of you said it in the chats earlier, would have lots of impact for your teams, potentially helping them to see the breadth of, you know, maybe the context that you operate in, and for your organization in terms of really that strategic side as well would be probably really beneficial. So really encourage you to be as intentional as you can. So we're going to go into the final reflections here, just for we've got another few minutes, and we've got another Menti, and I know quite a few of you went on the Menti before, so hopefully this will work very nicely again. We said at the beginning about the 1 to 10 for how you felt, etc. I hope it's you're moving it up slightly, but how do you feel your networking supports your leadership practice? And then I want you to, if you're not used to doing networking, just thinking little steps. What would it take to make it 1 point higher? And then if you're already doing it quite a lot, I'm asking you, how could it be a 10? You know, how could you increase it to really make it really beneficial? I think you can work through the questions on the Menti, can't you, Jill? I think that's how you've set it up so for us. So, and then there's 2 other ones, and you're welcome to just, you know, add to the ones that you're interested in. You know, in terms of your networking opportunities, what have you achieved so far? And a question that I like to ask the leaders I work with, what have you avoided so far? Why is it that you're not going into certain groups, certain meetings? Actually, what is it telling you? And maybe that's where you could go as well, because actually there might be value in doing it, but you've avoided it. But you know deep down that it might be beneficial. So I'm going to give you a few minutes just to do that. And Jill, if you would just maybe again, like you did before, maybe share some
Yep.
of the info that comes through.
Yeah, so the average score at the moment with the scoring 1 to 10 is a 6.6.
Okay,
So
that's
we'll
good.
see how that changes as it goes through. What would it take it to make it score 1 point higher? So these are the thing. Time comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Attend more seminars. I can't say that. Apply expertise and networking skills. Ensuring network is not repetitive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Time to do it properly. So not
Yeah.
just time, but to do it.
And I think that's why I started at the beginning by reminding everyone that actually networking, horizon scanning, you know, creating those links are absolutely part of your role. So your first activity before you start networking might be for you to really carve that time to do it. And you might, again, have to be very intentional about your time management. You might have to talk to your managers about it, about how it can be done. It's also seeing it as time well invested. So as you do it, you're not doing it for the sake of, I'm going out on a jolly for the day. I'm going out because I know this is going to be so useful for me, that I'm going to bring something back, that I'm going to feel re-energized, that I'm going to feel motivated to move on. So I think seeing it as an opportunity and creating that time is absolutely super critical. So thank you for highlighting that.
And then how could it be a 10? So again, time comes up a lot, but more of it like time and support within the workplace, creating a framework of effective networks that support career development and knowledge. Somebody agreed with what you just said, actually blocking out the time in their calendars to do it properly.
And
Decreasing
you would
cost
for
of
other
things.
aspects of your
Yeah.
job, wouldn't you? You would block the time to write a really important report. As we've seen, you know, this is part of your role. So I think, yeah, absolutely do it. Have we got anything for the last 2? And I'm
Yeah.
particularly interested in the what people have avoided potentially so far.
So not got too much on this one yet, the responses yet, but we've got somebody said almost everything because they find networking excruciating. And we've got
And that's where little steps, just do it
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more internally. Pick one group that you can join and do that. That's all that, that's your starting point. Don't think. I always think, you're not going to be a fully fledged networker in 6 months. So give yourself that time and go explore and see what works for you.
And then somebody said it's probably what I do. If they go to a networking event with people they know, they tend to use that as an excuse not to go and talk to new people, which I can
Yeah.
second that.
So what is it telling us? Go to events on your own.
Yeah.
Or split as you arrive and then regroup
Yeah.
at the end. But you've got to absolutely, because otherwise, well, it depends who you go with, because it could be someone from your organization that actually you don't often speak to,
True.
which could be useful. But I think the whole point is actually to go and try and gather as much as possible out of an event. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
We've got quite a few achieved, so I'll do some of the positives. So
Yes, please.
employee connections. Somebody says making themselves attend things so they're out of their comfort zone. Ideas, updates, and motivation. Somebody said they've built up a small network of contacts over the years that they're happy
Yeah,
of.
perfect.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. So
we'll
that's going to
summarize
stay
all these
open. It's
afterwards.
going to
Yeah,
stay open, and you'll download it as well, which could be useful for everyone to see.
yeah,
I think we're getting to the end, and there is one more actually, because ETF, we're always quite keen, aren't we, to
yeah.
gather what you learned today, and actually what is the key thing. Maybe put one thing on that Menti, one thing from today that you're going to put into action, really. I think is where we want to go, so that you can really start to shape and visualize what comes next for you. And if it is, I'm going to create space in my diary so that I can go networking. That is a fantastic takeaway, because that is the start of the journey. So and it could be that you try different types of networking. Maybe some online one you might find that easier, to be part of a group online, because takes less time in terms of travel, depends where you are. Go with what interests you to start with, I think. Don't go straight away for maybe a network where it's completely alien and you're going to find it difficult if you've never networked anywhere else. So I think doing some of that, and really thinking as a middle leader, this is going to really spark that interest. And I think, as I said, really help you feel like you are bringing to the table, a different knowledge, a different presence, and it's really going to help you in your career. So I'd be really grateful if you could do that, because I think we've got actually one more afterwards. We're getting to the end of our session, and we've got a survey that is about actually feedback on the session. So it's here on the screen for you, and it's about giving us feedback. As I've always said, I'm a lifelong learner, and I always say feedback is the food of champions. So I really encourage you to give feedback. ETF is really keen to do more for middle leaders. There's quite a lot of events happening, so really keen to hear your voice and what would be really useful for you in the future as well. I hope you have found it useful. It sounds like you have. There was lots of interactions and lots of great comments, etc. And I always hope that I plant some seeds in people's heads. They might not come to fruition tomorrow, but be intentional about it. Keep deciding as you go in the rest of the week. Oh, we've only got one more day. Tomorrow and next week, maybe next week. Start thinking about where you could, start looking at that grid, that table, where am I going to go next? So thank you very much. Jill, I don't know if there's anything else as we close that is actually, whilst people are maybe completing the survey, anything from your side that you want to highlight or
So the survey will get sent out again in the follow-up email, and we'll also send out a copy of the slides and the recording. It will most likely be early next week, just so we can get everything organised in place. The Menti will remain open till Monday. So if you do get a chance, if you've not had a chance to complete, or you've got any further thoughts, please pop on and complete them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a productive Friday.